Coming up on today's show, Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Udinski has been requested for an NFL head coaching opening. We'll tell you which team that is and whether or not I think he is going to be a head coach during this coaching cycle search. But before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much because we are one of 7 new channels here at Chat Sports that recently kicked off, and we are number 2 in subscribers here at Chat Sports, only behind Panthers Today. And my guy Tyler Smitty's doing a great job, but he's also been talking a little smack. Help me out. Help Jags now become the number 1 new in terms of new channels, in terms of new subscribers. You guys have been greatly supportive so far. Let's keep the momentum going. And without any further ado, let's get into today's show. Welcome into Jags Now, presented by Chat Sports. My name is Cullen Brown, and I am your host on today's show. Without any further ado, let's get into today's news where Grant Udinski has officially been requested for a NFL head coaching opening, and that is the Cleveland Browns. Tom Pelissero was first on the news saying this, quote, "The Browns requested an interview with Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Udinski for their head coach job opening. Just 30 years old. He actually just turned 30 years old yesterday, which is crazy enough. Udinski has risen rapidly through the coaching ranks and now gets his first look at a head coaching job. And listen, Udinski's had a pretty meteoric rise since entering the National Football League. He originally started as a Baylor graduate assistant, then entered the NFL as a coaching assistant with the Carolina Panthers in the 2020 season, worked with guys like P.J. Walker, Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Rule was head coach. Then he moved on to Minnesota in 2022 with the Vikings and, worked his way up to assistant offensive coordinator / assistant QB coach under Kevin O'Connell. And last year worked with Sam Darnold and his breakout year for the Vikings. And as we currently know, sitting here today, he is the current Jaguars offensive coordinator under Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. And to me, it wouldn't shock me if Udinski gets more interviews. He is clearly a guy that's been respected. He's well-liked in NFL circles. He's been described as just a football-first guy, just, constantly lives in the facility wherever he works at, all the way dating back to his days at Baylor. And he is, garnered respect from a lot of coaches and players from around the league, including your quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who, last month took some time during Jaguars kind of, stretch in their 8-game winning streak and had this to say about Udinski. Quote, "I've never really met anyone like him. The way he approaches the preparation process, the attention to detail, just the game planning in general, the things that he thinks about, the conversations that we have throughout the whole week. It's very detailed process. There's no stones that are left unturned in his approach with us in the quarterback room." And look, Udinski didn't call plays ultimately for the Jaguars. He hasn't called plays while he was in Minnesota. He didn't call plays when he was in Carolina. That being said, he still earned the respect of his counterparts just simply with his preparation, with his attention to detail, with his commitment to, contributing to the offensive game plan each week. And he's clearly earned the respect of Trevor Lawrence, who this season really took a step forward as compared to his 2 previous seasons. And look, Trevor Lawrence was a guy, you took number 1 overall out of Clemson with the hopes that he is your franchise quarterback, that he's a guy that you can build a team around moving forward that can hopefully one day compete for a Super Bowl title. And, when you amass for 38 total touchdowns on the season, it's something to be proud of and something, that he's really come a full circle moment. Because back in 2022, he led the Jaguars to a postseason appearance and really looked like he was going to be that next, great NFL quarterback. He was a Pro Bowler that year. But following that, and granted, this was something to do with Doug Peterson, some of the personnel, that this side or the other, the 2 seasons following the 2022 season, he just didn't play his best. Took a slight step back in 2023, as you see on your screen. 21 touchdowns, 14 picks, had a QBR 56.9, and then really struggled in 2024 where he suffered an AC joint sprain, had only 11 touchdowns and 7 picks, 56 quarterback rating, just wasn't the best for Trevor Lawrence. And going into that 2024 season is significant because if you remember in that offseason, Trevor Lawrence signed one of the largest contracts in NFL history at the time, 5 years, $275 million with $200 million guaranteed at $55 million annually. And especially after that 2024 season, a lot of people were saying, hey, is this one of the worst contracts in the league? I mean, he was getting thrown in discussions with Tua Tagovailoa and Deshaun Watson, for crying out loud. And Grant Udinski, while he wasn't the main driving force, obviously the Jaguars made changes with their head coach and Liam Cohen. They, acquired talent such as Jacoby Myers. They upgraded the offensive line in terms of Robert Hainsley, brought in guys like Patrick McCarry, all this, that, and the other, drafted Travis Hunter. Udinski, though, has been a part of not only this rebirth for Trevor Lawrence, which I think we all can agree it's, seizing his more true potential as a quarterback. He also was a part of a rebirth in Minnesota. And, his head coach at the time, Kevin O'Connell, spoke greatly highly of Udinski at the NFL Combine when it was announced that Udinski was going to be the offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. O'Connell had this to say: I will say he's prepared for this opportunity. He's going to do great things for Liam, who I've worked with well in the past as well. And the thing with Udinski is he's well-liked and respected. He is a guy that is somebody that clearly offensive-minded people, Liam Cohen, Kevin O'Connell, they value him in the building. And around league circles, I don't expect him to continue or to not have this be his only head coach interview with the Cleveland Browns. I think it's going to be something that the further we get on in this process, you might even see 2, 3, multiple head coach interviews for Udinski in terms of just getting, NFL teams to kind of pick his brain, see what the buzz is about the whiz kid, stemming from Jacksonville. And that's going to be something that I don't know if teams are going to necessarily want him to be their head coach because of his lack of play calling experience. But it's something that I could see him getting interviewed just simply from the fact that the Jaguars had an impressive offensive season. They, completely turned around their 4-13 year to a 13-4 campaign, and Udinski was an integral part of that. But I want to get your opinion first. Will Grant Udinski be hired as a head coach this coaching cycle? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I will let you know my answers here in a second, but I want you guys to get down in the comments section. I'll say no for now. Grant Udinski is somebody that I think is going to be a future NFL head coach at some point in this league. I think he's got the chops for it. I think he's got the work ethic for it. I think he has the respect of the players that he's worked with, but just not yet. I don't think he has enough skins on the wall, and we'll kind of break down why I think Udinski will stay just for two main reasons. Number one, I kind of already alluded to it, the lack of play calling experience. Listen, if you're going to be a head coach in this league as an offensive mind, you tend to want to be a guy that's called plays in the NFL before. And it's not to say that it's unprecedented. In fact, there's, 5 recent examples of instances where, offensive coordinators who didn't call plays did get head coaching opportunities, and we can bring those up for you right here. Frank Reich took over in Indianapolis as the head coach after previously being Doug Peterson's offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. Jags fans remember that name all too well. Didn't really necessarily work out. He's currently an advisor at Stanford currently. Nick Sirianni took over in Philadelphia, actually, ironically, being Frank Reich's OC and not being the play caller in Philadelphia. He is a Super Bowl champion, also another Super Bowl appearance, but he also, isn't widely regarded as one of the best head coaches in the sport. That being said, he's made it to 2 Super Bowls. I'll call that a hit. Mike McDaniel, on the other hand, Miami, became the head coach after he was the offensive coordinator at San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan. Just recently got fired. He is currently in the same head coaching cycle as Grant Udinski. Kevin O'Connell, who we previously mentioned, was Sean McVay's offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, where McVay was the one calling plays. And Brian Callahan did win Coach of the Year, by the way, and still thriving, I think, in Minnesota, although he had a down year this year. And then Brian Callahan was Zach Taylor's offensive coordinator, worked with him and Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. He got fired before the season even ended. So the results have been mixed at best for these guys. And that's not to say anything on Udinski, because Udinski's his own person. He's his own unique situation. But NFL teams, if you're going to take this opportunity to make a head coach the front face of your franchise and to really, put all your stock in a Grant Udinski, I think teams will be hesitant because of his lack of play calling experience, just simply because, when you become a head coach, there's so many responsibilities that you have to cater to. And ultimately, if you're hiring a bright offensive mind, it's not the only thing that they're going to be looking for, but it's just another, box that you can check, just like on your resume at home. Like if you're sitting there applying for the job and you have the opportunity to say, hey, listen, I've done extra volunteer work, or I've done, these internships, or whatever the case may be. It's better to have more checks on your resume than somebody else who, listen, they may not be as good of a potential candidate as you, but because they have it on their resume, teams are more than likely going to take a chance on you. And that brings me to kind of number 2 here, because speaking of kind of interns and stuff, he's young, man. As I mentioned earlier in the video, he turned 30 years old yesterday. All right, I'm 30 years old, and I'm still trying to get my life together. much less trying to become a head coach in the NFL like Grant Udinski. And look, there have been some, young head coaches that have been hired. Obviously, Sean McVay is going to be the main name that people kind of point to, is like, well, Sean McVay, he was hired at 30 years old. He was a great offensive mind in Washington. And, he hired at 30 years old, and that worked out great for the Rams, right? He's one of the best head coaches in the league. Well, people forget that Sean McVay was the play caller in Washington before he took the job in LA, and he called plays in the 2015 season, taking over for Jay Gruden, and then obviously was the play caller in 2016 under for Washington before he became the Los Angeles Rams head coach. Now, some other names for youngest NFL head coaches that have also been hired that have not had the same success as Sean McVay. Lane Kiffin, 31 years old, 8 months. He currently is set to become, or is the head coach of LSU. He's had stops at USC, Tennessee, Florida Atlantic. He's bounced around, did not work with the Raiders. He was their head coach for only 2 seasons. Harlan Savare, yes, that is how you pronounce it. Had to look that one up beforehand, but he was a young offensive mind who became the Rams head coach back in 1962 to 65. John Michelson for the Steelers, young 32-year-old, and Raheem Morris, who just recently got his second head coaching opportunity after originally getting his initial opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2009. So, in my opinion, I think it's more likely that Udinski will take another offensive coordinator position that will allow him to call plays than he will take a head coaching position. And obviously, there's still the possibility that he will remain the Jaguars offensive coordinator under Liam Cohen if he doesn't find a situation that he feels is beneficial for him in his career. I just don't think an NFL team is going to take the plunge in terms of hiring a guy this young, no play calling experience, even though he is well liked and even though he's well regarded amongst NFL circles. I just personally think that the time will come for Udinski. I just don't think it'll be this head coaching cycle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's video, and we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're currently at 526 subs. Just need a little over 400 subs away from getting to that 1,000 sub mark, and we want to bring you more videos. We're currently at about 3 videos per week. We're trying to get as many shorts up on the channel. We went live for Jaguars-Bills game, which, man, I'm still not over that one. But listen, we're going to bring you coverage all offseason long, latest news and rumors surrounding Jacksonville Jaguars. So you're not going to want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, Duval. We'll see you.